All right, so welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to the Canary Islands,
Okay.
specifically Tenerife.
Sounds good.
As you probably know, it's known for, its beautiful beaches,
Right.
volcanic landscapes, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to explore a much darker side of this popular tourist destination.
Okay.
There's this disturbing trend of disappearances.
Yeah.
And we're going to be taking a look at an article from Medium called "The Disappearance Epidemic in Tenerife."
Interesting.
And there's also a recent news piece about a body that was found in the Erbico municipality.
Oh, wow.
So, our goal today is to kind of, try to unravel the complexities of this issue, look at potential causes,
Sure.
and see what impact it's having on the island and its people.
I think it's interesting, you have this island paradise
Right.
that's attracting all these visitors from around the world.
Yeah.
But beneath the surface,
Yeah.
there's this troubling reality.
Yeah. And this article points out this really kind of staggering statistic. Over 500 people
Wow.
vanished on Tenerife between 2010 and 2020.
Yeah. I mean, obviously some disappearances are going to happen.
Right.
On an island especially.
I was just thinking that, people wander off, have accidents,
Right.
maybe even choose to just,
Yeah. Disappear.
right.
Disappear. Exactly.
Yeah. But the sheer number
Yeah.
and the circumstances surrounding a lot of these cases,
Yeah.
I think that's what really raises a red flag.
Yeah. Makes you think something else is going on.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
islands can attract certain types of criminal activity.
Okay, so unpack that for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Why would an island be more attractive to criminals?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
You got tourists.
Right.
They're often unfamiliar with their surroundings.
Right. Right.
Maybe facing language barriers.
Right.
And it's a very transient population, right?
Yeah.
People coming and going all the time.
Yeah. So it creates this level of vulnerability.
Right.
And then you think about criminals who are involved in, let's say, human trafficking
Right.
or smuggling an island with all its ports and less densely populated areas. I mean,
Yeah.
it can be ideal
Like it says.
for moving people and goods undetected.
So it's not even just about isolation. It's about the opportunities that the isolation creates
Exactly.
for people with, bad intent.
Exactly.
So it's interesting, too, because like Tenerife's location,
Right.
it's right between Europe and Africa,
Uh-huh.
right in the middle of those major shipping routes.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that makes it attractive
Absolutely.
to organized crime groups involved in all sorts of things.
Drug trafficking, human smuggling, all of it.
Yeah, you name it.
Yeah.
And then the article also talks about
Yeah.
the island's geography kind of playing a role in all this as well.
Right.
And they mention the discovery of these decomposed and unidentifiable bodies that are found in these really remote locations.
That's true.
Like, for example, there was one found near the Los Gigantes Cliffs back in 2019.
Right. Right.
And they think that, this person had probably been dead for months or even years,
Yeah.
and they couldn't identify him.
Well, that's the thing
Yeah.
about those remote locations. They become
Yeah.
dumping grounds.
Right.
And it makes it so much harder to identify the victims.
Yeah.
It delays investigations. And that's a tactic that's used by organized crime
Yeah.
to instill fear and exert control,
Right.
It's all very strategic.
Right. Well, and it plays into that, like, psychological aspect
Absolutely.
of an island. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can't really get away.
It's a finite space.
Yeah.
So the knowledge that these things are happening,
Yeah.
it just creates this
Yeah.
unease for everybody.
For both residents and visitors.
For sure.
I mean, it's kind of like the island itself is holding these secrets.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these individual cases
Okay.
that the article highlights.
Yeah.
There's one that really kind of struck a chord with me.
Mm-hmm.
The case of Jay Slater, this British teenager
Oh, yeah.
who vanished after a music festival in 2024.
Right.
They found his body in a ravine,
Mm-hmm.
officially.
Yeah.
They ruled it as an accidental fall.
Right.
But the article mentions all these lingering rumors.
Yeah.
Is it possible that something else happened?
I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
I mean, while some disappearances are genuine accidents
Right.
or maybe people choosing to leave their lives behind,
Yeah.
the presence of organized crime casts a long shadow over any unsolved case. it makes people question the narrative.
Right.
Especially when there's a lack of transparency or maybe a mishandling of the investigation.
So even if Jay's death
was an accident,
yeah.
the context makes it hard to ignore other possibilities.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you have the case of Laura Trapiniers,
Right.
who was a Belgian woman whose dismembered body was found in 2024.
Oh, wow.
Her husband is still missing, and there are suspects in custody for her murder.
Right.
This case actually kind of ties into the news article that we mentioned
with
the body found in Arica Municipality in October of 2024. And that one also, showed signs of violence.
Is the brutality of it?
Yeah.
That's really striking.
Right.
The dismemberment, the attempts to hinder identification.
Yeah.
I mean, it all points to a very calculated approach, which really fits the MO of these organized crime groups.
Yeah. They want to send a message. They want to intimidate people.
Yeah, it's not random violence. It's
strategic.
Calculated.
Yeah. And it's scary to think
that there are groups like this operating on this island.
It is.
That are capable of these kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not just tourists who are disappearing either.
Right.
The article also mentions Gary Ferns, who was a British resident of Tenerife, and he vanished after being picked up by an ambulance.
What?
He had mobility issues.
Oh.
And he was last seen leaving in an ambulance.
That's strange.
It is really strange.
That's very strange.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just, it's perplexing.
It is perplexing.
It's a perplexing case.
Yeah.
And it seems to kind of deviate from the patterns.
It does.
We typically associate with organized crime.
Yeah, it raises all sorts of questions.
It does.
Was it a case of mistaken identity? A medical error?
Yeah.
Or was it an intentional abduction disguised as a medical emergency?
Who knows?
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to speculate without more information.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really does. It really underscores the range of possibilities here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, from potential accidents to organized crime and everything in between.
Right. It really runs the gamut.
Yeah, but let's circle back to the role of organized crime.
Okay.
For a moment.
Sure.
The article dives deeper into some specific examples. Mentioned the Callejón del Oro area.
Right.
Can you shed some light on what makes this area such a hot spot for criminal activity?
So Callejón del Oro is it's a network of these narrow streets.
Okay.
In the south of Tenerife, and it's known for its nightlife.
Okay.
But also, unfortunately, its association with drug trafficking and prostitution.
Right.
And this area has actually been linked to several missing persons cases.
Oh, wow.
And it just kind of illustrates how these criminal networks can operate in plain sight.
Yeah.
They exploit the tourism industry and prey on vulnerable individuals.
It paints a pretty stark contrast.
Yeah, it's
to the picture perfect image of Tenerife.
For sure.
That most tourists have in mind.
Right.
But what about the impact on the local community?
Yeah.
The article mentions a cultural silence that has kind of developed around these disappearances.
Well, that's a tragic but very common consequence of organized crime. People are afraid to speak out.
Right.
They fear retaliation against themselves or their loved ones.
Of course.
They may distrust the authorities, or they may even just feel like reporting incidents won't make a difference.
Right.
And the silence, unfortunately, it just allows these criminal networks to thrive and operate with impunity.
So it's this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
The more power these groups gain, the more fearful people become.
It just feeds on itself.
Yeah, and the less likely they are to cooperate.
Absolutely.
With investigations.
Yeah.
Right, and the article also mentions the economic impact.
Sure.
Particularly on the tourism industry.
Yeah, I mean, tourism it's kind of a double-edged sword in this situation.
Yeah.
It's the lifeblood of Tenerife's economy.
Right.
But it also creates vulnerabilities.
Sure.
You have this constant influx of tourists.
Right.
Many of whom are unfamiliar with the area. It can make them easy targets for exploitation.
Right.
So it's a difficult challenge for the authorities to try and balance the need to protect tourists while also sustaining the local economy.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
For sure.
So what can be done to address this? Is there any way to break this cycle of fear and silence?
It requires a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
First and foremost, you need law enforcement agencies with the resources to effectively investigate these disappearances and disrupt these criminal networks.
Okay.
But that's only part of the solution. You need to build trust within the community.
Okay.
People need to feel safe coming forward with information, knowing that they'll be protected, and knowing that their concerns will be taken seriously.
Yeah. It sounds like
It's a monumental task.
Yeah.
It is, especially when you consider the cultural nuances and the diversity of the island's population.
Speaking of cultural understanding, the article's author, Ann Sadie, actually won a Global Recognition Award in 2024.
Oh, wow.
For multicultural literacy.
That's great.
And it just seems like her work on understanding different cultures and building bridges between communities is especially relevant in a situation like this.
Absolutely. Tenerife has this rich tapestry of cultures.
Yeah.
And, understanding the unique perspectives and the fears and the motivations of these different groups.
Yeah.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
Building trust involves more than just police presence.
It requires genuine engagement, respect, a willingness to listen and address the specific concerns of each community.
So it's about creating a sense of shared responsibility where everyone feels empowered to work together to kind of reclaim their island from these criminal elements.
It's about fostering a sense of community resilience where people feel connected and supported and they understand that breaking the silence is not an act of betrayal. It's an act of courage.
It's clear these disappearances are not just about statistics.
No, they're not.
They're about real people.
Real people.
Whose lives have been irrevocably affected.
Yes. Actually.
Families left in agony, searching for answers. And an island struggling to reconcile this paradise image with this much darker reality.
Yeah, it really is a stark reminder that even in paradise, darkness can lurk beneath the surface.
And it really underscores the need for awareness and vigilance and a collective effort to protect both residents and visitors.
Yeah, this deep dive has definitely been eye-opening.
Yeah.
We uncovered this troubling trend of disappearances on Tenerife, an island that so many people associate with carefree vacations and, just stunning landscapes.
Right.
But I think we've also seen that beneath that idyllic facade, there lies this complex reality.
Absolutely.
Shaped by organized crime, geographic vulnerabilities, and this culture of silence.
Yes.
That's hindering progress.
For sure.
And it's important to remember that Tenerife is still generally considered a safe destination for tourists.
Right.
But like any location, it has its challenges.
Of course.
But I'm curious.
Yeah.
If you were planning a trip to Tenerife, how would this new knowledge influence your decisions?
That's a good question.
Would you still go? Would you take extra precautions?
I think, personally, I believe that knowledge empowers us to make better choices. So I wouldn't necessarily avoid Tenerife altogether.
Okay.
But I would definitely be more mindful. I would do my research. I'd look into areas maybe to avoid. I might choose accommodations in more well-populated areas. And just generally be cautious about venturing into remote locations alone, especially at night.
It's about being a responsible traveler, right? And as you said, but using that knowledge.
Using that knowledge to your advantage.
To your advantage. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the disappearances on Tenerife with kind of a call to action for all of us. To, be informed, be vigilant, and advocate for a safer and more transparent environment for both residents and visitors.
Absolutely.
So if you are planning a trip to Tenerife, do your research, take precautions.
For sure.
And contribute to a positive travel experience.
Absolutely.
And let's hope that someday soon the families of those who have vanished will find the answers that they desperately seek.
I hope so, too.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and stay safe.